So the wait is finally over. The new order entry buttons are finally here.
It's been 84 years.
I know a lot of you guys have been waiting. This is going to be a new full master guide video. I'm going to timestamp everything in the description down below. If you want to download these order entry buttons or any of my indicators, you can go to TradeSaber.com, or you can join my Discord where everything is posted, and there are a ton of other free indicators there as well. I don't want to make this intro too long. It's going to be a bit of a longer video, so let's just dive into it. Okay, so first, this is a strategy. So let's load it up. You want to right click, go to strategies, and from here, you want to find the TradeSaber strategies folder. Select the order entry button. And we'll go through all of these parameters throughout the video. The first thing I want to focus on for now though is the order management method. You now have two different options. The first one is the R mode, and you also have a tick mode. The R mode, you're probably already used to this if you've used previous versions. This is where it will set your stop, your profit, and your position size all based on the range of the candles you've selected. Whereas the tick mode will now set the stop, profit, and your targets based on where you actually got filled and the offset you have selected. For now, let's start off with the R mode, and then I'll come back to the tick mode a little bit later, just so we can see how both function. So once that's selected, we're going to hit apply, okay, and remember, this is still a strategy, so we have to go to our NinjaTrader control panel, find the strategies tab, and we're going to hit enable. And now you're going to see a lot more buttons than the previous version. There's a lot more options to enter into trades. First, let's start with the buy high and sell low, and we'll go through the rest later. So when you select buy high, it's going to submit an order when the price breaks above the previous candle, and it's going to set a stop at the low of the previous candle or previous candles you have selected. Sell low is going to do the opposite. It's going to enter at the bottom of the previous candle, and it's going to set a stop at the top. So let's show how it works. Hit buy high, and you will see a green line. The green line is now your entry, and the red line is going to be where your stop is going to be set once you enter into a trade. So we'll hit play, and once it reaches this price,
submitted.
It enters you into the trade. It sets a stop right at the bottom of that candle that we had selected, and your profit, I have it set a little bit higher, but it automatically sets your profit as well. And if we were to go short, now that we have that, let's go back into our parameters.
Canceled.
And we'll customize the parameters a little bit to show you different functions and how to make this fit your own criteria. So again, you have to disable the strategy first, right click strategies, and it'll bring you back to the properties. So first, let's look at the position size. So here you have two different options. First, with the auto position size, you have the ability to let the strategy automatically calculate the amount of shares or contracts you should purchase, all depending on the risk size of dollars you're willing to risk. Now keep in mind, this uses a formula that a lot of traders like to use to calculate their share size. It doesn't take into account commissions, it doesn't take into account slippage, so oftentimes you will lose a little bit more than this number. So just bear that in mind. It's not 100% perfect. It's not going to stop you out as soon as you hit this number, but it will be fairly close enough in most cases. Your second option is if you have a preferred amount of contracts, shares that you want to enter with, you can just select this option and select whatever contracts you want to buy there instead. For this video, I'm just going to keep it at the auto position size, so you can see it moving around as we enter different trades. Next, your candle range. I'm going to go through that later on when we reach the entry line and stop line buttons. It's going to make a lot more sense then, so I'm going to skip over that for now. Next up is your entry offset, and this is how much farther away from the entry area you want your entry line to be set at. So for example, when you're using the buy high option, it's going to enter at the high of the previous candle. A 1 tick offset will enter you at the high plus 1 tick. A 2 tick offset is going to enter at the high plus 2 ticks. So let's hit apply and I'll show you quickly how that works. Let's rewind this. Okay, so we're going to hit play, the buy high. So from here, you can see the green line, which is your entry line, is now 2 ticks above the previous high of the candle we had selected. So if we hit play,
order submitted.
Now it's going to submit an order once it reaches that high. It's a market order, so we actually got a little bit better fill here, but it didn't trigger until it hit 2 ticks above the previous candle that we had selected. Let's go back into our parameters. So now if you want to enter using limit orders, you have the ability to do that as well. You can just scroll down here and select the limit order entry, and you will also have offset for your limit orders. And what these offsets do is it moves your limit order from your entry line. So it's not going to be set from the high of the previous candle. It's going to be set from the where your actual entry line was set. So for example, a 1 tick offset limit will set your limit order 1 tick above your entry line. Hit play. So I'm just going to let it run so we can see where the limit gets set.
Order submitted.
So okay, let's zoom in here. Here we can see where our entry line is. It was 2 ticks above the previous high, which is what we had selected. And then we had a 1 tick offset for the limit order. So it sets the limit 1 tick above your entry line. Now, it's probably best to think of this kind of order as a stop limit order, whereas the green line, that is your stop market part of the stop limit, and then the limit is the limit part of the stop limit. So first it triggers your order, then it sets the limit, and once that gets hit, it will fill your position, and you can move this limit
Order
around
submitted.
if you just want to get filled right away. That's not a problem. I'm just going to rewind this and let's go back to the parameters. Next is your stop loss offset. And this is the same thing as the entry, just for your stop. So when you're using the R mode, all your stops are always going to be set at the low of the previous candles you have selected. So the tick offset is going to be an offset from that low period. So a 1 tick stop offset by high
Order submitted.
is going to set your stop 1 tick below the previous high of the candles you selected. Okay, so we'll close all that up, head back to your parameters. Next is your profit target. Now, when you're on the R mode, your profit target is going to be based on the difference of your entry line and your stop line. And this is going to be the R target. So a 5R target is going to take your entry minus your stop. It's going to find the difference between those. And it's going to multiply it by 5. And it's going to set that as your target. So if you want to do, let's say, a 3R, it's going to take that 3 times, add it. We'll enter into a trade here.
Order submitted.
Okay. So using the Fib button, and I'll get more into the Fib button later, but you can see it takes the difference, then it's 1, 2, 3, and that's where it's going to set your target. Now, I just want to make a quick little note here because I get a few questions about this. The reason why these R levels are important to some traders, it's because it keeps your profits and losses consistent. This works best when you're using the auto position size, because if you get stopped out, you will lose close to your max loss risk size, and each target you hit is going to be one more risk size unit. So if you hit the 1R, you should be around the $1,000 for this example. 2R 2003 is the 3000, or whatever your risk size is. And of course, it is not perfect. It doesn't account for commissions or slippage, but it does help keep everything a little bit more consistent. It's not for everybody, that's fine. Just giving people more options. Let's move on with the parameters. Next, you have your dual target option, and this will split up your order entry into 2 different orders, and it'll make your first position size into whatever percentage you select here. So for example, let's actually go to the custom for this, just so we have nice even numbers to work with. We'll say 100. Okay, so now let's go back to the dual entry, and we have 0.25. So this is 25%. The percentages are written out as decimals, and it's going to set 25% of your total order. It's going to set it at the 1R target. So let's hit apply.
Order submitted.
Okay, so once that gets filled, you can see you have 100 total shares or contracts. The first target is 25% of your total amount, and it's going to set it right here at the 1R target, and the rest is going to be set at the final profit target. Now, I just want to make a note here, because this is still coded using the managed approach. It is a little bit limited in what it can do. So this is not one order that got split into 2. This is actually 2 separate orders that get submitted. So if your broker charges you based on each individual contract, it's not going to make any difference really. But if you're trading, let's say, stocks, and you get charged a minimum for each separate transaction, then you're going to run into a scenario here where it's going to charge you double the commission because it's 2 completely separate orders. So just keep that in mind if that's something that affects you. It's something, again, I want to work on in later versions. Just the managed approach is a little bit limited. Let's go back into the parameters. I just want to switch this back to the auto position size. Hit apply and enable. I just want to go through the buy market, short market options. So these will enter you at the market price, whatever it's at. Your R targets are still going to be based on the candles you have selected. So your target is still set at 3 and 1, and same for the short market is just going to be the opposite. So the range of the previous candle, and then just in the short position. Now, another thing I want to touch on is if you run into a scenario where the current candle is above the previous candle's range and you want to short the position, instead of setting your stop at this level where it was previously selected, it's going to set it at the top of the current candle, and it's going to add the offset on top of that as well. So let's see if
order submitted.
So here we submitted a short market order. Your stop would have originally been at this level right here because it's the top of the candle we selected. But because this candle is higher than where your stop would have been, it automatically sets your stop at the high of this candle, and it also adds the offset. Just keep in mind, if this candle is moving quickly upwards, your stop could most likely be hit very quickly. Just bear that in mind when you're using R mode. Okay, so now let's go back to the parameters, and we're going to go through the custom button. The first option is the close price. And what this does is it's going to set your entry line instead of setting it at the high or the low of the previous candle. It's going to submit your entry at the close price of the previous candle. So whether you're going short or long, it's going to set your entry here. And your stop is still going to be at the top if you're short, at the bottom if you're long. So let's again show a custom long.
Order submitted.
From here, you can see your entry line is 2 ticks above the close price because that's still the offset we have selected. And because we also had a 1 tick above for the limit, that's where your limit order is going to be set. And if we do a custom short, and because the price is still above, it hasn't crossed that line, 2 ticks below the close, we just have to wait until that price crosses. And you can see over here, it's going to stay highlighted orange until that price gets triggered. And if you just want to cancel it before then, you can just click it again and it takes everything away. Disable, go back into your strategies. And now we are going to select the ARM market new candle option. I'm not the best with names. If you guys have better names for this, let me know in the comments. But that's what I came up with. This was a highly requested feature for those that use range candles. And what this does is it basically arms a market order, either long or short. And as soon as a new candle opens, it's going to submit that market order. So let's run through an example. And now your custom button is going to be switched to that ARM market. So we're going to hit play. I'm going to arm a market order. Even though you see these lines, as soon as a new candle opens, it's going to move them to the previous candle or the range of candles you have selected. So these lines will actually move down here. And you're going to see the custom button now says market armed. And just notice your time up here. As soon as it's 10 o'clock, it's going to submit a long market order.
Order submitted.
So as soon as this new candle opened, it submitted a long market order. It still kept your same levels based on the previous candle. And it still kept your same profit target and levels and your position size based on the previous candle. That's basically all there is to that one. It's just a market order as soon as a new candle is open. So we're back into the parameters. And now we're going to go through the break even. We have your break even offset. And this is just going to be an offset of where your break even is set. And let's go through the 2 options for your break even. The first option is the break even area. So the break even area is not a true break even. So what the break even area does, it sets your break even to where the high-low entry area would have been, and your offset is going to be an offset from that area. So let's run through an example here. Let's do a 1 tick offset. We'll set our button to the entry area and we'll hit apply, enable.
Order submitted.
So We've submitted an order. Okay, so now we want to set a break even. So with the break even area option, it's going to set the break even at the entry area, which is the high of the previous candle. And our 1 tick offset is going to be underneath by 1 tick. So it's just the area minus the tick offset. And let's show
Order
another
canceled.
example up here.
Order submitted.
Break even. So here, even though we got filled all the way up here, the break even area is still the high-low entry area we selected minus the 1 tick. So that's all there is to the break-even area. Again, not for everybody, just giving people options if they like to trade based on the chart itself. Your other option is the break-even actual button. And this will set your break-even to the actual position fill price. The other option you have with these as well is if you still want to set it automatically, so if it reaches a target, it will automatically move your break even without you having to push any buttons. You can also select this option, and this will be based on the R targets as well. So a 1 will be, once it hits the 1R, it will automatically move your break even. So let's hit apply. Okay. And let's enter.
Order submitted.
Let's move this up. Okay, so once it hits this level, your break even will automatically move up here. Let's speed this up. And there we go. So as soon as it hit this candle, hit your 1R target, your break even got moved to your break even price, and we still have that offset I forgot to remove, so that's why it's underneath by 1 tick. But let's say you moved around your stop after and you were messing around and now you want to set it back to break even. You can just, if you have the button option selected, you can just hit it and it'll move it back to that same break even area. And yeah, now let's go through the trail stop. So for the trail stop, we just have the one option for now. I'll be adding in a custom trail option a little bit later. I just ran out of time to add that. But this trail stop option is going to trail each new candle. So as soon as one new candle opens, it's going to trail the previous candle. And again, you can set this automatically, or you can start it with a button. So let's hit apply, enable it.
Order
We'll
submitted.
just enter. So I'm just going to wait till it hits the 1R target again. And when it hits the 1R, it automatically moves your stop to the bottom of the previous candle minus the offset. We didn't select any offset, but that's also an option. And now the offset is separate from the stop, unlike the previous versions. So as soon as a new candle opens, it just automatically trails. And now if you want to stop trailing, you can just click on that twice so it goes back to white. And it's going to stop trailing. And now if you want to start trailing again, you can just as easily hit the trail.
Order
And with the
canceled.
button, it'll move it and it'll keep trailing each new candle. Now you can turn on, turn off your trail stop as you see fit. And I'll just make it a little bit easier to control now. Okay, so that's pretty much it for your entries and your management. Let's go through the rest of these buttons and what the purpose is. So now, as a highly requested feature,
Order
we have
submitted.
a close position option, which whether you're long
Order
or short,
canceled.
you
Order
can
submitted.
just close
Order
your
canceled.
position, and it's not going to disable the strategy. So just make sure you use this option and not this one up here, because this one will disable the strategy, this one will not. It does have a limitation though. So let's say you submit
Order
a
submitted.
limit order. It's not going to close the limit order. This will only close your
Order submitted.
actual position once you're into a trade.
Order canceled.
This is something I want to fix later on. It just required a different kind of entry order style, which my program was not set up to do just yet, but I will in a later version, so just keep that in mind. In order to use the close position, you have to be in the trade. If you do want to cancel a limit order, either push the
Order
X
canceled.
and disable and enable it, or you can just hit the actual close button up here and you'll also have to disable and enable it. So just bear that in mind for now. Okay, so next is the range options. And what these do is they simply just put the entry line, the stop line into the chart, and they're based on the buy high and sell low options. And this is just if you want to see your entry line, your stop line, the risk size, your range, your position size, without actually wanting to enter into a trade right away. So when you hit it once, you first come up to the long range. If you want short, you can just click it again. And now it moves your entry line to the bottom, your stop line to the top. If you want to hide it, just click it again, hides it, and you can just toggle through the options. So let's keep that and speed this up a little bit. So your next button is the unlocked and locked button. And what this does is it just locks your entry and your stop line where it is. So here, for example, our timer is almost done. If we hit play, it's going to move your entry and your stop to the new candle. But let's say you like this area and you want to keep it there. You don't want it to keep shifting over with each new candle. You can just hit it. It locks it in place. And when we speed up, it's not going to move your entry and your stop line to each new candle. It's just going to keep the exact same levels that you want. And as new candles open up, it's going to keep these same levels. So now if you want to just enter
Order
whenever,
submitted.
it's going to submit an order and still base your entry, or sorry, base your stop and your profit based on these same levels. And you can
Order
close
canceled.
position, and if you want to enter
Order
buy high,
submitted.
it's still going to be at this level. Now, the only thing is, if you have a limit order like we do here, or when the candle
Order
closes,
canceled.
it automatically deletes the limit order. That's just a Ninja script thing. So you will have to submit it again
Order submitted.
every time a new candle opens. For that, I'm also working on something to see what we can do about that. But for now, that's just how it is. All right, so for your final set of buttons is going to be your entry line and your stop line buttons. And what these are going to do is they're going to give you more customization to where your stop or your entry lines are placed. So by default, when you load the strategy, it's going to be set at entry candle used number 1 and stop candle used number 1. And all this does is it's telling it to look at the first candle previous to the current and look at the low for the stop or the high for the entry if you're going long, the opposite for short. It's just looking at that range, and that's where it's basing the entry and the stop lines from. So I'll show you a little bit easier here. Let's hit apply, enable it, and let's set our long range. So here our entry line is at the high of the previous candle. Our stop line is at the low of the previous candle. And these are also shown over here. So this one is, it's looking at the first candle for the entry. This one is looking at the first candle for the stop. So what happens in this scenario? You want to set your stop at the bottom of this little pivot down here, instead of just the previous candle. Instead of going into your parameters and clicking the exact candle that you want, that could get pretty annoying, like my previous indicator that I still have to update. You can instead hit the stop line plus, and that's going to move your stop line 1 candle back. And the more you keep hitting it, it's the more it looks back. So here we selected 4 now. So now it's looking at 1, 2, 3, 4. And it's going to get the lowest range out of those 4 candles. So, and if we want to go back, we can just hit the minus button. And now it's going to look at the last 3. And because number 2 is still lower than 3, it's going to set it at 2. And we can just go back even farther, and it'll go back to 1 if that's what you want. Your entry line is for your entry line. So let's say you want to enter somewhere up here. You can just hit your entry line, 2, 3, 4, and it's going to set your entry line up here. And with all of that, it's going to keep automatically updating your the range, your position size, all your levels. Everything is going to be set on these new levels. So let's move this back over and enter a buy market order.
Order submitted.
So now your stop is set at this bottom here. Your target is based on that new range. And that's really all these buttons do, is just to automatically adjust your range that you want to use on the go. And now for the last 2 buttons here. First one, show display. That's just literally for your display box over here. If you don't want to see it, you can take it away. If you want to see the numbers that you're working with, you can just hit show display. And the last button here is just your ShowFib button. This is just if you want to show your fib levels. And I'm going to show you how to configure your Fibonacci retracement so it matches these same levels and it'll display the same numbers that we're seeing here for your R targets. So in order to modify your Fibonacci retracement, the way I like to do it is just draw a Fibonacci retracement on the chart. So you can either go to your drawing tool or hit F8. Just draw a random one. You want to right click on it, go to properties, and under the fib retracement, head all the way down to your anchor levels. So from this screen, you're going to want two main numbers. That is your 0%, which that is going to be your entry, and you want your positive 100%. That is going to be your stop. And then for each target is going to be a negative number. So a 1R target is negative 100, then 2R negative 200, 3R negative 300, and you can add as many as you want. And you can also change the colors, customize it to whatever looks visually appealing to you. As long as you have 0 and positive 100, and then your negative numbers for the targets. That's all you need. And once you hit OK, you want to go to your template at the bottom, save, and then make sure you save as default. So anytime you load any fib retracement, it's going to show these new levels. And that's the only way to get this to work. If you haven't configured that, you might see random weird numbers when you hit the fib button. So for the final parameter we have to go through is your tick mode. So go to the order management method, switch to tick mode, and this is going to set your stop and your profit targets based on the ticks you selected from your actual fill price. So what that means is once you select tick mode, you have to set where your stop and your profit are going to be set. These automatically come as 0, so make sure if you want to set your stop 10 ticks below your fill price, you just select it under the tick offset stop. And now this, when you get filled, it's going to be 10 ticks below that fill price is where your stop will be set. And your profit target, it is now no longer an R target. Now, let's say you want to set your target 20 ticks above your fill price. This is where you set that. And everything else works pretty much the same. It's just your target and your stop that you have to change now that you're in tick mode. And again, dual entry, if you want to set 25% at the 10 tick target, we can select that. And everything else should be pretty much the same. Okay, so once you load it, you still have the same options to enter trades. So if you want to buy high,
Order submitted.
it's going to set your entry at the high of the previous candle. But now you'll see that your stop gets set at 10 ticks below your fill price. Your targets at 10 ticks and 20 ticks like we had selected.
Order canceled.
And if you select your range lines, you'll see now they get set to where your entry and your stop are going to be. And now if you want to move your lines, it's going to be a little bit different than the R mode. Your entry line will still move based on the high or low of the previous candle, but your stop line, if you want to add more ticks to it, it's just going to keep adding more ticks. So if you want to set your stop, let's say 32 ticks below your fill price, you can do that just with the stop line. And again, your entry line is still based on the high of the previous candles. And the last thing is it's not going to set your stop exactly at this line. When you're on tick mode, it's going to set it from where you got filled at. So even though your entry line is up here, 20 ticks below that is down here. When you submit your buy market order,
Order submitted.
it's going to take 20 ticks below your entry price. The range lines are just more of a guide when you're on tick mode. And your fib buttons, they won't do as good on tick mode as well. Again, this is because it's based on the fill price and not actual levels and targets from the chart. But the fib level will still be set from where you got filled and where your stop is. So if you want to move these around to our targets later, you're able to do that. And just the last few things I want to mention, just for basic troubleshooting. All your entries and your stops must be set by the strategy. If you want to add another order, this is not going to manage this order. It's going to mess it all up. So it's a little bit limited in that regard. And if you use any other entry method outside of the strategy, or you're having weird little problems, always close your position, disable it, and re-enable it, and that should reset everything. Right now, there's no method to add onto a trade using this strategy. That's something I'm working on for another future update. And also, in a scenario where there's a partial fill on a dual target, your break even and your trail stop will not work properly. This is just, again, the managed approach of coding. It's a little bit limited. It's all things I'm wanting to work on in the future. But for now, this is how it is. And the last thing I want to touch on is, if you want to get rid of these awesome buttons that lead you to my website, Discord, or this video you're watching right now, I made it easy. You can just go to these strategies, head down to the TradeSaber socials, uncheck that. It's gonna take the buttons away. And if you want to get rid of this text up here, you can just go to the label, delete that, hit apply. That gets rid of that. I know I've gotten a few questions about those. So I hope this helps some of you guys with entering and managing trades. If you guys found it useful, please leave a thumbs up, subscribe, do the things. If you want to download this, again, TradeSaber.com or my Discord, it'll be available there. If you guys have questions, comments, find bugs, anything, let me know in the comments down below or on the Discord. I'm always available. But with that being said, take care, guys. Enjoy.